Andrew.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whittaker Weekly. Let's get right into it.
Alright. First things first in the news. It's been recently announced that Attack on Titan Season 3 premiere will be airing in theaters here in North America. It's select showings on July 10th and 11th, and it's going to be preceded by a feature-length summary of Season 2.
Okay.
So you can go to theaters, watch, I don't know how long it's going to be, 90 minutes to 2 hours, of a recap of Season 2, and then Episode 1 of Season 3.
Okay. Cool. I wonder if there's going to be one local for us. Probably not, because of where we live.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did something up in Salt Lake for it. Probably not down in our little area, but
yeah.
But Salt Lake with Anime Bonsai and all the other conventions, and Salt Lake Comic Con with FanX, all the things that are going up there, they would be planning very poorly if they didn't put something, at least something local.
I can't find it. Like, it said that it was on Funimation's website that it would have it will soon have a list. Okay, I misread that.
Soon have a list. All right.
Soon have a list. Okay.
Fingers crossed they're coming to Utah. And to whoever else is listening.
And, yep.
Wherever you may be.
Wherever you may be. All right, next up in news.
We've got another announcement. Those of you who have been following along, you may notice that there's been an anime about Ninja Batman coming out. Well, apparently it's getting a manga adaptation drawn by Masato Hisa, who's known for Nobunagun and some other work.
Nobunagun, yeah. I looked him up. I'm actually not familiar with him.
Yeah, it was. It's not somebody I'm terribly familiar with, but I'd be interested to see what else they've done and kind of see what they're involved in. I read a synopsis on Nobunagun, and it sounded pretty interesting.
Okay, it looks like he's just done Area 51 manga and then the Nobunagun manga, and then he helped create the TV show. Okay. So yeah, I've heard of Nobunagun, but I haven't actually ever watched it.
Right.
So that maybe one for us to watch later on.
Okay then.
Okay, but exciting news for anime fans there. For manga fans. Next up, we have some announcements from Nintendo regarding the new Pokemon games that are coming out this year.
Yes, apparently the Switch has announced some new core Pokemon RPG. Do you know anything about this? Have you been following along?
Just a little bit. The core Pokemon one, some people thought that the leak that we saw, the Pokemon Let's Go, were the core Pokemon games, and they're not. Those are kind of spin-offs where they are more like Pokemon Go, for the Switch rather than an actual Pokemon game where you wander around in tall grass and capture Pokemon and stuff like that.
Where the walking is done by your thumb instead of your feet.
Exactly. You know, the proper way of walking. But yeah. So Nintendo just wanted to let people know that Pokemon Let's Go is not the core Pokemon games that are coming out. Those are due next year for Switch, and that's going to print Nintendo even more money having Pokemon games on the Switch.
Yes, it will.
Okay, and then something that actually just was announced pretty much today, or yesterday, Bethesda sent out a tweet.
Yes.
And that tweet was simply an image that said, "Please stand by," but it was the "Please stand by" image from the Fallout games. And so everyone's just like, okay, what's this? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then today they released a trailer for Fallout 76. And that's a different number than Fallout 5 from what people were expecting. And I honestly thought it was probably a remake of Fallout 3. But Fallout 76, it takes place in Vault 76. That's why they're calling it that. Okay. And Vault 76, for those of you who are not familiar with the Fallout series, it's a nuclear wasteland. The world has ended, and everything's just a big pile of garbage.
Right.
And there are vaults that were made, and they house, upwards of 500 people inside of each of these vaults. And typically when you play a Fallout game, you are a vault dweller who is going out and exploring the wasteland.
Right.
That is not the case in some of them. But one of the horrific things about the vaults is that they actually were not intended to carry humanity on. They were test sites to see what kind of tests they could get away with on human experimentation. 76, however, is one of the control vaults. Okay. So there were no tests done in that one. But the teaser has them listening to John Denver's Country Roads playing in the background. So that's rumored that it's set in West Virginia. Not quite sure. I enjoyed Fallout 4. I think I'm going to hold off and wait for Fallout 76, though, just to see what they've improved on from Fallout 4, just because as much as I enjoyed Fallout 4, like Fallout 3 I was able to go back and play over and over and over again. Same with Skyrim and Oblivion.
Right.
I wasn't really able to do that with Fallout 4.
Maybe you can confirm or deny this rumor.
I deny it.
Somebody said, I was looking online about this, and some information I glanced upon was that the reason they called it Fallout 76 is that it was basically the Fallout version of PUBG or Fortnite, where it's a survival game where they drop, it's an online game, they drop 76 players into a room, and they're all killing each other and you're the last one standing.
If that's the way it is, then yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I don't care for those multiplayer-only games. But whoever said that apparently has more information. Either they're BSing you or they have more information than the general public does.
All right.
Because Bethesda pretty much released a teaser trailer, and they are... and showed some images and some of the vault, and they're going to release more information about it at E3.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's kind of it for news. There are some other things and stuff. That's all we really wanted to talk about this week. Stuff that piqued our interest. But yeah. So that's it for the news. Let's go ahead and move on to 3 episodes in.
All right. And this week it was my choice, and if you remember from last week, I picked Assassination Classroom.
You sure did. What?
So, what he says. All right. So, Assassination Classroom has an interesting premise.
Real fast for our listeners. I've read all of Assassination Classroom.
Okay.
I know the characters. I know the story. So I was watching this from a perspective of somebody who knows what they're getting into.
Whereas I haven't seen a thing of it before now. I've seen images, characters, and memes. I happen to have a game. I happen to have a copy of J-Stars fighting, and the teacher is a playable character in it, or at least he's on the cover art. With the collage of all the other playable characters, so I'm assuming. I don't know that. I haven't gotten that far into it yet. So I was aware of its existence. But I wanted to get into it and see what it was all about.
But the reason I bring this up is just because I know where the story's going, and so I see a lot of the hints and like a lot of the foreshadowing and things like that that are really expertly dropped in there. I'm going to do my absolute best not to spoil you listeners after for what happens after episode 3 for those of you who have not seen this amazing show yet.
Right.
So just wanted to give. I may slip up. I apologize for that. I'm going to do my best to focus on just the first 3 episodes, but I may slip up.
All right. So let's take a look at where we're going to get started. So the premise of this show is there is a creature who has rendered the moon a permanent crescent by blowing up a major chunk through the middle of it. And has threatened to do the same to the Earth. But in the meantime, he intends to teach a middle school class. Is that about what are they, 9th grade? They're like grade.
They're 9th grade. They are third year middle school.
Third year middle school. Third year middle school, the E class, the worst of the worst grade wise. And apparently, he's planning on teaching them for a semester before blowing up the Earth, and has given each of them the opportunity to try to assassinate him the entire time he's teaching them before blowing up the Earth. The show starts with a very, very funny sequence with the teacher coming in and then having the class rep go through the traditional, you've seen it in anime a million times, the traditional instructing of the class to stand and bow. When she says stand, And everybody stands, and she says bow, and
He.
everybody pulls out. Is it
Yes.
a guy? Because I can't tell.
Nagisa is a boy.
Was it Nagisa who said it?
Nagisa.
Okay.
Nagisa is the class rep.
Nagisa's a class rep. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't tell Nagisa was a boy for the first until somebody dropped a pronoun midway episode 2.
I'll just say there's a reason he has the haircut that he has.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so pale blue haircut, up in pigtails. It looks like. And so I never bothered looking the neck down to see what uniform he was wearing. So
You thought it was a girl.
I assumed it was a girl. He said stand, bow, and when he says bow, nobody bows. Everybody pulls out fully automatic BB guns or semi-automatic and just starts trying to shoot the teacher in a full-on spread, and the teacher's standing there just dodging, meanwhile taking the roll, and the students are responding to the roll the entire time.
They airsoft is pretty big in Japan. They're airsoft rifles. They shoot little plastic pellets, little BBs. But I actually have a Desert Eagle model that I've shown it to you before.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yes, you've shot me with it before.
Yeah. Have I shot you with
In the leg.
Oh, well, I'll have to aim better next time. Here
Please don't.
here in America, we have, laws where toy guns and stuff like that, they have to have the orange on the nozzle.
Yeah.
So if you go to an airsoft store, you'll have the any gun that you buy will have an orange nozzle on it.
Yes.
They don't have that in Japan simply because they don't have guns for the most part.
Right.
So their airsoft rifles look very, very realistic. So they have airsoft rifles with these orange BBs that they are shooting at Koro Sensei.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes, and it's established pretty early on that the reason that they're the BBs that they're using are in fact lethal to him but harmless to humans. Well, they could still put an eye out, but Christmas Story.
That has nothing to do with anime. Let's focus on the subject.
Focusing on the subject. But yeah, it's established that. He then takes one of their BB guns and shoots one of his tentacle arms with it to demonstrate that it will actually cause harm to him, and it blows his arm clean off.
A single BB blows off one of his tentacles. Yep.
Yes, and then his arm's writhing around before it takes time to regenerate. But yeah, it's established pretty early on that these kids are doing this.
We get a little bit of a flashback, and we're shown. We meet Karasuma-san, Karasuma from the Ministry of Defense.
Yes.
Rather than keeping a file with everybody's names, I just pulled up the wiki this time, because there's just so many characters.
Sure.
And I would have just been pausing it over and over again to make sure I was getting everybody's names down.
Yeah.
So I just pulled up the wiki this time. But Karasuma from the Ministry of Defense says, for some reason, this monster wants to be your teacher. So.
And there's not a lot they can do to say no.
They can't really. Yeah, they show a scene where he's talking to the leaders of the world, making a list of demands or whatever, coming to them after having blown up the moon, and says, "I'm going to blow up the Earth in March of next year." And then he cuts a deal with them where they will be able to keep track of him. They will know where he is, but he needs to be the teacher for this class.
Yeah.
Don't know why. No idea why. Well, I know why, but no idea why.
They throw in a handful of flashbacks where he's apparently in a ruined place, darkly lit, with what appears to be a woman dying and forcing him to make a promise with her dying breath. And it's implied that she is the reason that he's making this promise. But within the first 3 episodes, it doesn't go beyond minor clips of that flashback. So,
but he. And so, because the government made this deal, it's up to these kids to kill Koro Sensei.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't have a name, but they give him the name Koro Sensei.
Meaning,
because it's a play off of, like, Koro Senai is like you cannot kill or cannot be killed. And because he doesn't have a name, he tells the students to name them, and they go ahead and decide to do a play off of Koro Senai and call him Koro Sensei. So.
Basically a pun meaning unkillable teacher.
Yep, except that on his gym uniform and stuff, he's got the kanji for kill and then sensei. So, but he, and the students are also told that there's a 10 billion yen bounty on his head. Whoever kills him gets it.
Yeah,
so
and that's
which is $100 million.
$100 million for, and again, we've already mentioned that they are the E class. They are the class that is not expected to ever make it to college or do much beyond burger flipping throughout their life.
Yep.
Because of their academic, the lack of academic prowess.
We learned that they through the courses of the episodes, we learned that E class, they call it end class. And they are in the top preparatory academy in the nation. And students who can't make it there, like students who can't make it due to the just the strict nature of the rigorous nature of the classes and study and stuff like that, they don't get kicked out of the school. They get deported to E class, and E class is not on the main campus. It's on a satellite campus. That's just an old rickety wood building rather than a state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line school facility.
Yes.
And we learn that the entire reason they do this is so the other students can remain motivated. So having someone for them to focus, the normal students to focus on not becoming and being kind of the target of their ire, helps the other students remain focused. That unfortunately is a really, really bad deal for the students who are in E class.
It is unfortunate for them, but it is a proven motivational method to have both a goal and a consequence at the same time. Like if you surpass this goal, here's your reward, and if you fail to meet this requirement, this is your punishment. And having both of those is a known a known quantity for motivational activities.
Now, one of the great things about this show is not only is it like it's got a fairly serious overtone. Like this show, they are 14, 15-year-old kids
being trained to kill.
So that is never really lost in the overall arc of the show.
Yeah. Like Nagisa keeps saying, we are killers.
And, there's this threat that the world is going to be destroyed in less than a year. I mean, this Japanese school year starts in April, and this is the start of the new school year.
Okay.
Or actually, I don't think it's the start of the new school year because that one student was suspended. And I'll have to check and see when it actually started.
It was pretty early.
It's still pretty early in the school year.
There was a scene involving tulips, so we know it's spring.
Yeah, it is spring. It's definitely spring. But, and I actually have that written down. But one of the things that I love about this show is that while it has its serious overtone, it still finds time for humor and lighthearted things to relieve that tension.
Yeah.
Which was actually leading into the next bullet point for you to go ahead and cover since it's one of yours.
Okay. Yes.
It was a low-hanging fruit. Why did you not take it?
Oh, right. All right. So there's a scene. I'm sorry. I when I was watching this anime, I was trying my best to watch it all at once, but I ended up having to watch an episode one day and another episode another day, and I couldn't sit down and watch it all the way through due to family scheduling conflicts. But life is life, and so no, yeah, one of the early scenes as the what did your name is Takoyaki. Is that the name of the security professional?
The security professional?
Yeah,
they become Ministry of Defense.
Ministry of Defense. Yeah,
Karasuma. Takoyaki is a food.
Okay, never. All right, that's
okay. In episode 3.
Okay,
yeah,
that's in episode 3. No, okay, sorry. Anyway, as he's explaining the situation to the kids, one of the kids pipes up and says, "So why would we need to? So why is this alien teaching our class?" And the teacher, instead of answering the question of why he's teaching the class, goes on a tirade saying, "I'm from this planet!
I'm not an alien! I am from this planet!"
Which is like, doesn't answer the question at all. And is hilarious. So, that was a great little scene.
Yep, and we also see that while he's this alien-looking creature, like, we haven't really described what he looks like yet. He's got a ball for like his face looks like a Walmart smiley.
It does.
Face, and then he's got these like college professor robes on, and then just tentacles coming out from underneath.
Yeah, he's got 2 full arm tentacles coming out of each sleeve, and then he's got what looks like 6 or 8 stub tentacles serving as his feet.
He actually has 4 arms.
Yeah, 2 per sleeve.
Sorry, I heard 2. From a sleeve.
Oh, 2,
like, sorry. Yeah, no.
Yeah, 2 per sleeve, so 4 arms and
2 per
8 legs.
sleeve. Okay.
And so sometimes they call him an octopus.
Yep, which he actually takes pride in being an octopus.
And will doodle an octopus on their graded papers.
Anyways, so near the end of the first episode, we learn like even the E class students,
Yes.
they don't much. Some of them are close, others are not.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And those who are kind of the bullies of the group decide to use Nagisa, the blue-haired boy, and they decide to use him as pretty much a suicide bomb.
Yes.
Against Kodo Sensei.
So what it appears to me, from just the first 3 episodes, the Class E is basically segregated into 2 main groups. You've got the people who look like they'd do well, but they just couldn't cut it academically. And then you have the delinquents. Mm-hmm. And so there's clash between these 2 groups. And it's the delinquents.
And it's not just bad grades that can get you into Class E. They also people who get expelled or like for fighting for violence reasons, they get sent there as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so this becomes a conglomerate of people who are there for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But you can kind of tell stylistically who are they were very clear with their character design, who were the delinquents and who were the people with poor grades. And so it's a gang of delinquents who have bullied Nagisa into what they've devised as a suicide bomb. Mm-hmm. And we don't see that it is until the last moment when Nagisa. The attack works as such. The Nagisa is handing in papers or something. Is out going to the teacher, handing in papers.
He's handing in a quiz.
Handing in quiz. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pulls the knife out because they have these Rambo knives that are made of this bendy rubber that's the same material, the same lethal material that the
BBs are.
The BBs are, but they bend and they're harmless to humans. Mm-hmm. He comes in to attack him. The teacher snatches the knife away, but during the act of snatching away, Nagisa, in the middle of the attack, continues and just wraps his arms around the teacher in a hugging embrace when a pop grenade on his that he's wearing around his collar goes off, and that grenade was set.
It doesn't just go off. One of the students. Let me go ahead and get his name here.
Was it a remote detonation?
Yeah, Terasaka. He has a button, and he presses the button, and it goes off.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that blows up, and pretty early on, they think they got the teacher because there's just a puddle of ash and a layer of skin all over the.
And the students who were there for bad grades rather than because of fights, they all start pretty much yelling at Terasaka because they think that he killed Nagisa, and all of them are really upset at him for it. But then
the one who's the most upset.
Well, then we see Nagisa on the ground covered in some kind of a film.
Yes.
And he's totally fine. And then we hear Kodo Sensei. And we see him on the roof, hanging from the ceiling, like a Japanese horror.
Now, up to this point, Kodo Sensei has demonstrated the ability to change color in different ways. Mm-hmm. When somebody answers something correctly, his face dings with a yellow, it goes from yellow to a red circle saying yes, or a green X if it's no, purple X if it's no, or green stripes if he's being condescending. This time we see a new color.
We see him black.
He pulls out the best creepypasta kind of stylistic.
His face just stretches and his teeth start getting bared, and he tells them, and he calls out the 3 punks who set Nagisa up for this, and they try to defend themselves, saying, no, it was Nagisa's idea, it was all him.
And the real reason he's angry is because they didn't take Nagisa's well-being into account with the assassination attempt. But the assassination attempt itself?
But they think they're totally fine. They think they could, he can't do anything to them. And that's right. He made an agreement where he will not harm the students of the classroom.
Right.
That being said, in order to put them in their place and kind of show them how powerful he really is, he leaves the classroom, and those guys think that he's running away for a little bit, and then he comes back less than 5 seconds later with a bag of nameplates. And in Japan, every single house has the family nameplate outside of it. Even in apartment buildings, they'll have a nameplate with the name of who's living in there.
Right.
And he drops down the 3 nameplates for the houses of the thugs.
meaning he can get to their families faster than they can blink.
And he spells it out for him and says, yes, I can't harm you, but I can kill your family. I can kill your friends. I can kill everybody on this planet and leave you perfectly alone. And that's when he says, but it was a great attempt. Like, you know, he goes,
I'm not mad about the suicide attempt. That was awesome.
I'm not mad about the assassination attempt. I'm upset that you didn't take Nagisa's safety into your consideration.
Yeah.
So, he says full points for Nagisa on the assassination attempt because I didn't feel your killing intent until it was almost too late. But he also reveals that this film that was over Nagisa, he sheds his skin once a month. Yes. And so he used that to protect Nagisa. And he says that's my once a month trump card.
Yep.
But yeah, so after that, we see some of the students like getting one-on-one lessons with him and stuff. And the next day, we go to the next episode with the next day, and one of the students,
so he's out sitting amid the trees. So this satellite school is kind of surrounded by wilderness.
It's on a mountain next to the school when it's surrounded by a forest.
It's surrounded by a forest, so it's in the woods. It's plenty of wild area around it.
And Nagisa, we failed to mention this so far, he's been taking notes on Koro-sensei's weaknesses.
Yes.
Weaknesses like he gets flustered easily, or he, you know...
At first, people think, because he hasn't mentioned too many weaknesses, he hasn't written down much yet, the weaknesses he has written down and showed people, like, this is useless information. But over time, this thing is going to get more and more valuable, or finding.
But, and we already found that by the end of the second episode, where he gives them an assassination attempt with him being handicapped. Yes. But anyways, this other student walks up to Nagisa, and it's Sugino. And Sugino, he is a former member of the baseball team.
Baseball club, yeah.
Of the baseball club. And you want to talk about what happens?
Yes. So what he's done is he's embedded a whole bunch of BBs into a baseball, and then while the teacher's back is turned, he throws the ball. He tries to throw the best fastball he can at the teacher. The teacher then sees the ball coming, and at Mach 20, leaves where he's at, goes to the shed where the sports equipment is, grabs a baseball mitt, comes back, and catches the ball before it gets to him.
Straightens a sign in the shed. And then closes the shed and comes back, yeah.
And so... And there he is with the ball that he's caught. During that lunch break, he decides that he's going to... later in that episode, the teacher decides he's going to go to a sporting event and proceeds to go to New York to watch a baseball game.
To catch a Giants
game. And then he comes back...
Well, he says Giants, but the Giants aren't a baseball team in New York. They're a football team.
No, yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah. Yeah, whatever. He says he's going to see a baseball game, but he says Giants. So, yeah, that's... Anyways, yeah, let's not worry about that. That's one hiccup.
It's fine. But he comes back, and then later that evening, as he's talking to the kid who tried to assassinate him with the baseball, tells him point blank that he'll never be able to throw a fastball like the guy he was trying to imitate. Because he went to go see that guy's game, and then he also managed to molest that guy with all of his tentacles to feel all his muscles and his
Well, he does that to the student first. Like, he grabs the student.
It's established, he does it to the student, and then it's established that he had done that to the pitcher during the game.
But it's funnier the way we see the reveals. Yes. And
okay.
He's outside with the student, with the baseball student, and Nagisa sees him out there, and he looks, and he sees Koro-sensei has grabbed the student and has got tentacles all over him, like holding him up in the air and stuff like that. And he runs out and says, "What the crap are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, no, I'm not hurting him. I'm just like examining his muscles and stuff like that." And he puts him down.
Yes.
And he says to him, "Then, like the pitch that you did yesterday, you're imitating this famous baseball player.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're not going. Your
due to
shoulder muscles,
due to your shoulder structure and muscles, you're not going to be able to throw a fastball like him ever."
And that makes the student upset. And Nagisa's just like, "Well, how do you know about that baseball player's muscle structure?" He says, because I felt him up yesterday.
And we see a shot of him doing the exact same
thing. Only the pitcher was on the mound when it happened, so all these tentacles are coming up from underground and got this baseball player up in the air.
Yes. and he just does it in front of in the middle of the game, in front of everybody, because why would he wait?
Because he can. But then he tells the student, who's been depressed these past couple of days because his ball wasn't fast enough to get the teacher.
Yeah.
And this reminds him of why he was kind of kicked out of the club.
Yeah,
because he was never able to throw a fastball.
He couldn't throw a strike.
He couldn't throw a single strike. Well, I meant he was trying to do a fastball is what I was going with. So he was trying to throw fastballs, but every single one of them got hit.
Yeah.
So he couldn't throw a single strike. So he was benched, and then because he was benched, he eventually stopped carrying out his grades, and then he ended up in E class.
Yep.
But
But the teacher eventually reveals to him that that just because he can't throw a fastball like that one player because of his shoulder mass and situation, he has a better wrist than that pitcher. So he may be able to throw a better fastball. It just won't be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives him hope. And there's a really great arc for that episode.
Yeah, no, it's good, and that's kind of the episode ends with the reveal of a new student.
Now, which episode did the tulip thing happen? Was that
that's
the same
episode? I'm pretty sure that's episode 3.
You're right. It
starts off in episode 3
because the handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the students come up. So it reveals a new student who's been
suspended since the school year started.
Yep. Suspended since the school year started. Oh, what happened? I lost the site for some reason. Anyways, that's fine. So, Karma is the name of the student.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been suspended because he was in a fight. And he's very, very excited about the opportunity to kill a teacher. We'll go ahead and get into his backstory a bit later. Mm-hmm. But episode 3 starts off with an amazing comedic scene where all the students are coming up to Koto Sensei, mm-hmm. and well, not all of them, but several of them are going up to him and see that he's once again relaxing before school. Mm-hmm. And he goes over and the students all rush to Koto Sensei, and then as soon as they're on him, they all pull out their knives and try to attack him, but he of course gets away. Mm-hmm. And then he reveals that he's replaced their knives with these flowers that he found. And then the female students recognize the flowers as the tulips that they had been working on so hard, and they're finally blooming, and they're furious with Koto Sensei. And Koto Sensei feels so bad about it that he
immediately starts replanting bulbs.
He goes and he just gets a bunch of bulbs, and he goes and he starts replanting them, and they're scolding him, saying, "Don't you dare do this at super speed. You've got to do it carefully and make sure everything is done properly." And he's like, okay. So, yeah, here's this massive killing scene being scolded by 14-year-old girls because he cut their flowers. And that's where we see the Batsu game, or not really, it's not really a Batsu game. Batsu game is a Japanese term for a punishment game where the loser has to do something bad. That's when he does the assassination attempt at disadvantage.
Yes.
And he ties himself up and like a pinata.
Like a pinata. He's tied his arms together and then tied himself to a branch, and all he can do is swing from the branch to try to get away from everybody with giant sticks, with the knives duct taped to the end of them.
And we see this kind of from the perspective of, what's his name? Let me go ahead and see if I can't just pull it up in history. There we go. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. History. There we go. Desktop version. Kurosama. Kurosama has joined the faculty of the school as the gym teacher for Class E.
Now, we've known him since episode 1. He's been involved. He's the representative from the army.
Mm-hmm. And real fast, the only people who know about Koto Sensei are the students in the class, the principal at the school, and the leaders of government. Mm-hmm. That's it. No one else is. It's a national secret.
Students aren't even allowed to tell their families about
it's worldwide secret. Yeah, students aren't allowed to tell their families about the situation or anything. So he comes in order to help train the students to be better assassins. He comes and he takes over as their gym teacher.
Yep.
And that's actually one of the things that I love about the series as a whole. These kids, they just get a first-rate education and they meet more and more assassins as the series goes. And they get a first-rate education on how to be an assassin. Like, imagine if you had imagine if Michael Weston was your school teacher. What kind of education would you get? What kind of gym class would you have?
Tradecraft 101.
That's what they get for the entire year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But real fast, a foreshadowing thing is actually something, and this is one of the things that I liked about it, is because I already know the show, I'm catching a lot of the foreshadowing and stuff. One of the things that I really liked was Nagisa saying, I wonder if this teacher will be able to accept my bloodlust as well. And you just think, this Nagisa is this cute kind of short boy. Bloodlust? So anyways, so in that same episode, Karasuma becomes the gym teacher, and their gym class for that day is knife combat.
Yes, they're out practicing and doing their doing an 8-stroke practice. So they're attacking from the 8 cardinal directions.
And some of the students say, well, "Do we really need this?" I mean, seriously, he's like, "Well, just like in everything boils down to the basics. The better you are at the basics, the better you'll be overall." So, and then he teaches a lesson to a couple of the kids when they try to cut him. He's like, "If you guys can't cut me, you're not going to stand a chance against him at Mach 20."
Yeah.
So
he starts training them to get good enough to actually take him on in knife combat. At least that begins their process.
That's their process. Yep. And so right after gym class is when Karma shows up. And Karma is the kid who was suspended, and he walks up and introduces himself to Koto Sensei.
Yes.
And he goes up and is very, very polite, very kind, and he goes to shake Koto Sensei's hand, and Koto Sensei grabs it, and then his tentacle explodes. And and then it's revealed that he sliced up one of those knives and pasted its pieces onto his hand.
Yeah,
which is how he did that. And he tries to slash Koto Sensei, but Koto Sensei backs up, and Karma starts mocking him, belittling him and stuff like that.
Playing mind games.
Playing mind games. They then have a quiz for the next period, for the last period of the day. And he finishes it and says, "Oh, I'm already done with it. I'm going to go ahead and just eat my delicious gelato now." And Koto Sensei says, "You're not allowed to eat that in the classroom." He's like, "Wait a minute, gelato? That's my gelato that I flew all the way over to Italy to buy."
And then flew back in the substratosphere so it would stay cold all the way back. And there he is wearing Santa gear as he's doing that.
That's Koto Sensei for you. And he walks over to it, but ends up walking on some of the BBs.
Yes.
And then the student walks up, and Karma walks up and just stabs him with the gelato.
Yeah.
And Koto Sensei flies off after school that day. And Karma mocks him more and taunts him more and stuff like that, and then leaves because that was the last class and he finished the quiz.
Yeah.
Ended up getting 100 on it. He's an incredibly intelligent student. And he, Koto Sensei then flies up and thinks, "What am I going to do about this kid? Obviously I can't hurt him, so what am I going to do about it?" And he finds the best way to handle this situation by humiliating him.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, what scene was next? Was it the home ec scene?
I don't know. No, I don't remember the breakdown of the scenes, but there was another scene before the home ec scene. But it's the next day. And he tried to. Oh no, that's what it was. They're in class, and he just tries to shoot him. No. That's what it is. That's what happens after school. Karma talks to Nagisa, and they're old friends. And not. Karma says, "Well, what is he insulted if you call him an octopus?"
Yeah, he's trying to find
weaknesses and stuff like that. And the entire time he's bragging about how he's going to be the one to kill him, and how excited he is that he's going to get to kill a teacher.
Yeah.
Which again is foreshadowing, not really foreshadowing, but hinting towards his backstory and stuff.
Right.
About why he's in Class E, and it's a lot like GTO, where each student has their own reason for being in the class that they're in and for hating adults.
Okay.
You never seen GTO, have you?
I have not.
It's a good one. It's a classic. But anyways, that's a train station, and Nagisa says to him, "No, it's kind of his mascot. He'd probably be really, really happy if you called him an octopus. I mean, he even doodles in our notebooks and as an octopus every once in a while."
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, okay." And the next day, Kodo Sensei shows up, and he walks in and says, "Good morning, class." And the entire class, they don't make eye contact with him. They're very, very obviously nervous about something. And he looks down and he sees the octopus dead on his table with like a ice pick through it. And then Karma starts bragging. And Kodo and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was you. You know, you guys look so similar. Something along those lines. I don't exactly remember the exact term." He's like, "Oh, sorry. I misplaced my octopus. Could you please bring it over here?" Oh, and he says, "Oh yeah, sure. I can do that." And he's walking towards Karma, and Karma's got his hand on his knife, getting ready to strike. And right before Karma's able to do anything, Kodo Sensei goes into action, and using his Mach 20 speed, he makes takoyaki.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who don't know what takoyaki is, it's like a little soft bread ball that has octopus meat or taco inside of it. And they put like a sweet sauce on top of it. It's pretty tasty. I prefer it with chicken rather than octopus, but that's just me.
Sure.
But yeah, takoyaki. He makes takoyaki and then feeds it to him. And shows that pretty much starts putting Karma in his place, because like, look, kid, you've got my full attention now. Try me, okay? And then the next scene is home ec, and they're learning how to cook a dish. They don't really say what the dish is. It's a soup of some kind, or a broth of some kind. And one of the students says, "Hey, Kodo Sensei, mine is really, really bitter. I don't really know why." He's like, "Oh, well, let me go ahead and give it a try." And then Karma comes up with his knife, and he flips the pan, trying to burn Kodo Sensei with the contents, or the pot. And then in a flash, it's nothing happened at all.
Yeah.
And we go through a brief flashback where Kodo Sensei took a what are those called? It's like a small baster, whatever they're called.
Oh yeah, eyedropper.
An eyedropper. He takes an eyedropper and he gets every single drop of the soup and puts it into the pot.
Yeah.
And then he puts some sugar in to help correct the bitterness of the broth.
Yes.
And then the third attempt, he
also puts doesn't he also during that time put Karma in a frilly apron?
Yes, he put him in a frilly apron
during that same scene.
Yep, and then right after that, they're in class again, and Karma just tries to shoot him, and then Kodo Sensei just lickety-split, gets the gun away from him, and does up his nails, and gives him nails that nails with
like cute faces on them,
with faces on them and stuff, and they're all takoyaki balls, and one of them's a little octopus. So yeah, and so Karma's just getting more and more frustrated, and finally at the end of the day, Karma is sitting on a tree branch over a cliff, or like a tree that's kind of grown over a cliff.
Yes.
And Nagisa comes up to him and says, "Hey, we should be working together to do this, so we could really use your help." And Nagisa's just like, no, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill a teacher. And Kodo Sensei walks up to them and just says, "Hey, let's talking to them about their efforts and stuff." I forget exactly what he's talking about, but it's then that he says, "Teacher, I'm going to kill you," and then he jumps off the cliff.
Yes.
Thinking I've outsmarted him, because if he tries to catch me at top speed, it's going to kill me. If he lets me fall, it's going to kill me. So either he kills me, or he lets me die. Either way, his life as a teacher is over. And if he tries to fly down slow enough to catch me without killing me, I'll stab him with the knife, and I'll kill him. As he's falling, his life flashes before his eyes, and we see that he had a teacher here at the school that was all buddy chums with him, saying that, "I know you're kind of violent, but as long as you're in the right, I'll go ahead and I'll be on your side." And then he gets into a fight where someone was beating up a senior, was bullying on a senior just because they were in E class, and this was before he was in E class. And and then it cuts back to that teacher, and the teacher he's yelling at him for beating up one of the top students in the school.
Yeah.
And saying, I let your violent tendencies go because your grades were so good, but now you're threatening my career with your violent tendencies, and I'm not going to let that go. I've already put in for your transfer. You're going to E-class next year. And during that scene, we see like the flesh of the teacher fall off until it's just a skull.
Yeah. And
the next thing we see is the teacher's office in complete shambles, and the teacher afraid for his life as Karma is walking away. And I'm pretty sure that's what got him suspended.
Yeah, I think so.
And not expelled because, suspended. But and then it cuts back to Karma, and Karma's saying, "I'm gonna I've won. I've killed you. Either I've killed your life as a teacher, or I'm gonna kill you directly." And then suddenly, there's a net underneath him.
A bright yellow net, the exact same color as our not alien monster friend,
as our tentacle teacher.
Yes.
And he
Kodo
Sensei. And he
forms a sticky net and catches him.
Yeah, he forms a net with his arms and catches him. But he makes it sticky to where he can't stab him with the knife.
Yep.
And he goes up to him and he says, "Karma, you dying is not an option for me." And that gets through to Karma. Starts breaking down some of his walls. And that's kind of where the episode ended.
Yep.
So, he takes him back up and reunites him with Nagisa and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the episode ends.
And that's our 3 episodes in.
And that's 3 episodes in. So what are your thoughts?
I'm interested. I think I might continue watching this on my own.
Okay. I don't know if I will, just because I've got other shows that I'm watching.
Sure.
And I already know the story. And I was actually scrolling through, and it's the complete manga, like everything that's in the manga. Well, I can't say that just because the manga was a decent length, but it wraps up the story. It's what's in the mangas in the anime.
Okay.
So if you watch if you watch the anime, you'll get the complete story.
Cool.
And I actually was getting teary-eyed as I was seeing some of the stuff that happens in the later episodes. And I was like, oh man, I remember that happened. Oh, and that happened too. Oh man. So I don't know if I'll be watching it just because I've got other things on my plate.
Sure.
But that's not to say I don't like it, because I really enjoyed what I watched. It's just I already know the story.
Yeah,
so I've got other things to focus on.
Yeah, no.
Still, this show gets my recommendation for those of you who have not seen it yet.
Yes. Okay, so next week is your pick. What do you want to watch next week?
Next week is my pick. Next week, and this is, I don't know if this is a cheat on my part, but you haven't watched the first 3 episodes, and it's still currently airing. And I get the feeling we should probably try to focus more on shows that are currently airing.
Sure.
Hina Matsuri.
Hina Matsuri.
When you were at my place on Friday, we watched the first episode. It's the one about the psychic girl.
Oh, the psychic girl and the little egg.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yakuza the friends.
It is delightfully weird and funny. But friends, more like take some hostage. Nita Yoshifumi, and the synopsis is from Crunchyroll.
Yes.
I didn't write this myself. Nita Yoshifumi, a young intellectual Yakuza, lived surrounded by his beloved pots in his turf in Ashigawa. They're not pots, okay? I don't know why they said pots. They're vases. And they're very expensive vases. He's got a nice collection going. But one day, a girl, Hina, arrives in a strange object and uses her telekinetic powers to force Nita to allow her to live with him, putting an end to his leisurely lifestyle. Hina tends to lose control of herself, wreaking havoc at both school and in Nita's organization. Though troubled, he finds himself taking care of her. What will become of this strange arrangement? It's the beginning of the dangerous and lively story of a nice guy outlaw and a psychokinetic girl.
All right. Well, we'll watch the first 3 episodes of that, and we will let you all know what we think.
Yep. I'm excited to hear what you think about it, because I know that I adore it already. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be watching for the next episode.
All right. That brings us to our next segment, our recommendation of the week. And this week, it's Andrew's turn.
And it's my turn. And this week, I recommend Dark Souls Remastered.
And why do you recommend that?
Because it just came out, and I've been playing the crap out of it. I played Demon's Souls back in the day when it first came out. And I hated it.
Okay.
I hated it. I was just like, this is garbage. And I just thought it was a bad game. where they made it arbitrarily hard to hide the bad game design. And so I avoided Dark Souls, I avoided Bloodborne, all those games. I was just like, whatever, people enjoy that stuff, it's not for me. And then one of our favorite YouTube channels, Extra Credits, started a series, Dan Sucks at Dark Souls. Did you ever watch any of that?
I watched a few. I watched a few.
Where Dan and James talk about Dark Souls, and Dan is playing it, and they're talking about the game design of it, and how the game forces you to pay attention and play it slowly and methodically and stuff like that. And as I was watching that series, I decided to go ahead and give it another try. I had just gotten a PS4, so I decided to go ahead and try it out on Bloodborne.
Okay. And
I got Bloodborne, and I was hooked. It just got its claws right into me. And even to this day, after I've played all the other games now, and beaten most of them. Bloodborne is still my favorite out of them all.
Okay.
But I got Dark Souls for the PC, and I don't know what it is about my rig, but I tried getting it to work properly and stuff, but I was never able to get it to work smoothly, get it to work properly. So I never played it, but I've played Dark Souls 2. I've gotten to the end DLC of it, but I was only playing Dark Souls 2 to time over till Dark Souls 3 came out. And then when I played Dark Souls 3, I didn't pick up Dark Souls 2 again. And I've beaten Dark Souls 3, all the DLC and stuff like that. Even on New Game Plus, I've beaten it. So I've gone through it twice.
Okay.
I was playing Demon's Souls as well, and I was really enjoying that, but then they shut down the servers. So now it's just a single player experience, and it's kind of missing the multiplayer aspect, so it's kind of sad. Okay. But the game's been out for a while now, so I understand why they shut it down. But Dark Souls Remastered just came out last week, so it was finally time for me to go ahead and pick up the game that started the craze, because Demon's Souls was a cult hit, whereas Dark Souls was like a blockbuster. It's where it really got it into the mainstream. So I picked it up, and I'm multiple hours into it, got past multiple difficult areas. I got through the areas where people say this is a make or break, like this is where Dark Souls really starts, and just like whatever. But I made it through those areas. I'm now on Orlando. Made it past the annoying... There are archers in Orlando, okay? The Silver Knight archers, and they stand on towers. You can get up to those towers, but they shoot arrows at you the entire time. And those arrows are the size of lances, okay? They're really obnoxious. But I made it past them, and thoroughly am enjoying it. Made it past Sen's Fortress. People call it Sen's Funhouse. But yeah, it's a great game, and I highly recommend it for anybody who hasn't tried it.
All right.
It might not be your cup of tea, but it's still a lot of fun.
Okay.
Okay, and now after that, it's time for our creator shout out.
All right, and this week it's my turn, and I am giving a shout out to a man named Martin Molin, who is part of a band called Wintergarten.
Wintergarten is how he pronounces it.
Wintergarten.
Well, now, Wintergarten in without the accent.
Now, many, many years ago, there was a group of CG 3D artists who put together a compilation called Animusic. And some of this stuff, it was instruments playing themselves, or in instances, balls hitting strings and then falling into funnels and all this stuff. And that inspired him to build what most of the internet has seen by now is a turn crank marble
machine.
The marble machine. And so what it does is he would turn a crank, and the crank would turn a wheel, which was connected to a chain of Lego bits that would lift arms up that would allow ball bearings to fall onto a xylophone or a bass guitar strings and all these other things.
Snare drums and stuff like that.
Snare drums. And he built this machine, and it played one song. But the machine itself was... he had a lot of problems with it.
It's a highly flawed machine.
It was a highly flawed machine, but he learned a lot building it. And in the last 2 years or so, he has been working tirelessly building version 2, the Marble Machine X. And he has a YouTube channel, Wintergarten Wednesdays, where he documents the process of making it.
I think it's just Wintergarten, but Wintergarten Wednesdays is the show that he does on it because it's every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday he drops a video that's explaining how he's using these amazing tools. He's got this CAD machine that is connected to a robot arm with a drill bit that allows him to 3D print from a sheet of plywood. So the drill cuts out what it wants from the plywood.
Yeah,
So it's an auto cutting.
It's a cutting tool. Yeah, it's not a 3D printer.
Now
he has a 3D printer.
He does now have a 3D printer, and but he's building this machine with 3D printed plastic and CAD assisted gears and tools, plywood, plastic, metal, ball bearings, and the like. And he's putting it together. And today he released an episode where he's really starting to assemble the whole thing, and it's getting close to completion.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool.
So yeah, go check him out on YouTube. And
he's designed the Marble Machine X to not only be functional but to be aesthetically pleasing, where it's cool to look at from the distance on the stage.
Yeah, he wants to take it on tour with him. He wants to have it visibly demonstrated on tour with his band. He's built it in a way that he can very quickly change what song it plays. So he's kind of got these boards that look a little bit like a light bright, where you just put your pegs into different places, and it's designed to pull these plates off and put on new ones and very quickly start a new song. And so he's been working really hard on this thing, and it's been really fun just going back through and watching all the things that he's done and the inspiration that he's been through. And so yeah, check him out. It's a great little set of videos. Great channel.
Okay, well, I think that's it for this week. Unless there's anything else you want to cover?
I think that covers everything.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you come back for next week. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whittaker Weekly. Take care of yourselves.